or wealth management companies. They are big animals, and one fintech alone is too small. But if we can help them and build the business cases where actually they collaborate together and create a certain kind of consortium, that is more, how would I say, interesting to the traditional players to cooperate. And it's also, there is a risk aspect as well. It's not so risky to have a better, bigger consortium instead of having a one small startup player.
And if I look it from the bank or insurance company, big company perspective, it's also so that when the one fintech is covering quite narrow part of a process or a system or a need, typically the big companies, they want to fix the long process, end-to-end process. And in those cases, it's more natural to utilize few or more fintechs and own processes instead of having only one.
Since you have participated in Arctic15 for a few years, could you please share your feelings about the event in general?
Actually, today I made a Twitter tweet and also in Instagram saying that whoop, whoop, we have the most interesting, my favorite conference, Arctic15 starting. This is my favorite conference because, first of all, it's cool to be in Finland and Helsinki to have this bus, this startup bus, and it's cool that we have lots of different kind of tracks, meaning that we have also other animals than games only coming from Finland. So I think this is a great concept, and Taru and Jan and all the staff, they have made a great job.
One comment from my point of view also, that I find this very interesting, very good, and this is cool to have so international this atmosphere here. And like our company's name, Fintech Ecosystem, we trust to that the more partners on the market is the better. And also so that even though the Finnish market is very good, we can't live alone here. We need other companies from other countries, from other cultures, and together we are stronger.
So you basically believe that at Arctic15, good connections are established, enabling Finnish businesses to go abroad.
And vice versa. Because
Absolutely.
we see also that very important that we can help to bring interesting international startups to the Finnish market. So it goes to the both directions.
And probably I have one last question for today. How would you generally evaluate the state of Finnish startup ecosystem nowadays?
No, I think it's really, really positive thing for Finland and the whole ecosystem that we have these startup people and they are doing a tremendous job. The only thing which is a little bit challenging I'm worried about is about the amounts and amount of investments. In Finland, we have a very, very little money. So we need more investments from abroad to really, really scale up the startups, because we help tech and fintech companies to find the best possible funding as well in our fintech ecosystem. And typical case is that the company asks for 1 million, but actually they should ask 10 million. The amounts are too tiny.
Well, one comment on you asked about how we see the ecosystem as a whole. I would say, like Kirsi was saying, that we are it's very good to have this kind of broad fintech and startup ecosystem in Finland. Our national economy will be better, getting in modern young companies, employing while growing, because our industrial structure have been so old-fashioned with the heavy engineering and industry. We are becoming more international and more agile society with these startups.
Thank you very much for this interview, Harri and Kirsi. It was great having you in the studio, and now let's go and enjoy the rest of the day one at Arctic15. Good morning, everyone. This is Arctic15 Day 2. My name is Marina, and today we start with a guest for whom I'm very grateful for having time for this interview in his really busy schedule. Hello, Peter. And
Hey.
I think it would be better if you tell a few things about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Peter Vesterbacka, and local entrepreneur here in Finland. And I've been involved with startups for a while, so more than 20 years. And think that I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Been involved with getting Slush going back in 2008. So all the way back in 1999, so like 20 years ago, I started something called the HP Bazaar. So I started my career at the company that Bill and Dave started in their garage in Palo Alto in 1939. So that's basically what started the Silicon Valley. Okay, that was before my time. But then also, of course, more recently I was the Mighty Eagle at Rovio, so building the Angry Birds brand and taking that to various places like China. And then I've been also for the last few years very focused on looking east, so again China, India, all of Asia, and that's been fantastic to do out of Helsinki because we happen to be here at the heart of all of Eurasia. So I always say that we have a fantastic geographic location right here in the middle, and around us in our neighborhood we have 70% of the world's population, so 5 billion people. So it's a very good starting point for building fantastic companies, fantastic businesses. So that's kind of like my focus right now. And then I'm also building a tunnel between Helsinki and Tallinn to cope with this massive growth that we're expecting going forward. So involved with many different things, and all of them have this kind of like entrepreneurial attitude in common, so making stuff happen.
Yeah, and you're really good at making stuff happen and making the world rocking.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's, like you have to have something to do, and I think that the most important thing is you have to have fun, and I think also my advice to Niklas and the guys when they actually won a game-making competition that I organized back in 2003, and they asked me that, like, what should we do now? We're students here at Aalto. And I said that you should do what you love. And then they started doing what they love, which was making games. So they started Rovio in 2003. And I think it's always about doing what you love to do. And when you have the passion for what you're doing, then everything becomes like pretty easy.
So is the passion and interest the main criteria for you when you're choosing which startup or which company to invest in?
Absolutely. And I think that it's always, I'm looking for, of course, great entrepreneurs first and foremost. And just actually rushed here from this announcement that I'm now working with Two Dads. Actually, it's Two Dads is a fantastic brand, I think. And working with two dads that very concerned about all the not so healthy food that the kids eat, because there's not like many healthy alternatives to go to the local supermarket anywhere in the world. So Two Dads is now focused on making healthy food for kids everywhere, and super happy to be working with them. And the reason for that is that I love the brand, and I also think that it's a great example of a great business doing great things. So I think all businesses should look at doing good, because that's also good for business.
Okay, I think this can be used as a quote. And of course our listeners don't really see it, but today Peter is wearing a Two Dads t-shirt.
Yeah, you always have to live the brand and do what you believe in. But I think that that's very typical for the companies that I work with. It's always has to be something that I can believe in and, really also then, of course, be able to contribute. So always love doing things differently, and then typically haven't been afraid of setting reasonably ambitious goals. So I think that is another thing that startups always and entrepreneurs should always do, that don't be afraid of going crazy and going crazy with your ambition and goals, because it's something that we as human beings are always very good at, kind of like limiting ourselves and thinking that we can't do something. But of course we can do anything. And I think that this is something that, entrepreneurs, all of us are a bit crazy, and that's like a good thing.
Right. So as you mentioned, you're quite active in China now, and this is probably a classical question, but in your opinion, what's the main difference between Finnish and Chinese startup ecosystem or business ecosystem in general?
Obvious first thing is size. Of course, everything in China, I mean, you take Finland and you multiply by 250 and you get there. Otherwise, I think that, of course, it's different, but it's more similar than different. So I think that everywhere what makes startups great are, of course, the fantastic entrepreneurs, and it's always all about the people. And I think that, there are not actually that many differences in the end, but I think that besides like the obvious difference of scale, I think that then there are also obvious like differences that come from there, that if you are a startup in Finland, you of course immediately understand that being number one in Finland is probably it's not a bad thing, but it's not going to deliver you the world. Then you have to go outside. And I think China is actually similar to the US and other like big markets, that if you are a startup in Silicon Valley or if you're a startup in Beijing or Shanghai, you don't necessarily have to go anywhere. I mean, if you're number one in China, that's like pretty damn good. If you're number one in the US, that's also, very good. So I think that there is not that natural global thinking. And I think this is one area, again, we have a lot of collaboration now with Chinese startups, Chinese investors, and I think that one thing that we can bring to the table here from Finland, or actually I like to talk about the whole finest Bay Area, so Helsinki and Tallinn, Stockholm and St. Petersburg, that we have a lot of very internationally minded, globally minded people here. And then when we bring our local entrepreneurs together with the Chinese entrepreneurs, then there's like no stopping it. So I think that we can really nicely complement each other. And then we're very fortunate here in Finland that, you get on a plane in Helsinki, 6 hours later you're in Delhi, 7 hours later you're in Beijing, 8 hours Shanghai. We have 3 flights a day to Tokyo, actually 5 flights, like at peak during Golden Week and all of that. But it's not only those places. I mean, you can fly from Helsinki directly to Beijing, Shanghai, Chongqing, Chengdu, Nanjing, Xi'an, Jinan, and I probably forgot some, Hong Kong, obviously. And then also in Japan, it's not only Tokyo, but it's Nagoya, Osaka, Fukuoka, Sapporo, and so on. So physical connectivity is fantastic. And again, leveraging our geographic position. Here we are the closest neighbor of China, India, Japan and Korea in Europe. So I think that that already allows us to do a lot of things. And that's why we see here now at Arctic15 and, Slush, we always see a very big participation from all over Asia. And of course also all over the world. But, Asia is kind of like in our neighborhood. So we see a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startups, a lot of investors coming here because it's, super easy, short, direct flight, and you're in Helsinki. So why wouldn't you be here?
Yeah, it's always convenient when the transportation is easy and quick.
Yeah.
That saves lots of time. Probably to wrap up this interview, I'd like to ask you 2 short questions. First of all, I'm pretty sure this is not your first Arctic15.
No.
Any comments, any differences from the previous years? Are you happy with the event?
I think that it's been a very good event. Lots of great people. And for me, all of these events, of course, it's all about the people. So I haven't listened to too many presentations or anything like that. But I met with a lot of old friends, but also a lot of new friends. So a really good event. And I would say that it's bigger and better. Again, really like the event. It also reminds me of the early days of Slush that we also organized here at the Cable Factory. So, of course, now the scale, if you look at Slush, is a bit different. So we kind of like outgrew the Cable Factory. But the Cable Factory is one of my favorite places here. In general, I mean, not only during Arctic15, but like in general, this is the biggest cultural hub in all of Europe. 5 hectares of amazing companies, amazing things. You have studios of music studios, movie studios. You have architects, you have kung fu, you have dance studios, theater. You have a fantastic variety of business and culture here at the Cable Factory and at massive scale, at least like for Europe. Great place to hang out, not only during Arctic15, but like all the other days as well. So love being here and been meeting with so many fantastic people. Highly, highly recommended.
Right, and there was promo for Arctic15 2020 from Peter Vesterbacka.
Yeah.
Right, I think I should ask some money from them for it. Or
you
should ask. We should check. Right, my last question. We're, on behalf of Tribe Tampere community, we are very grateful that you had time for visiting us at Tribe Plus. It was our first year here, and we co-hosted it with Crazy Town.
Very good.
And can we ask for a short feedback about that event as well?
Yeah, I think that we had a very good Tribe Tampere event last night. It was packed with people, and I think that we're doing really cool things together. So we're now taking the finest Bay Area, so everybody around the little bay that we have here. So not only Helsinki and Tallinn, but Stockholm and St. Petersburg. So local startups from around the bay and from Tampere and Turku and everywhere. So we had a lot of people, and now finest Bay Area going to the Greater Bay Area, so the Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Macau area, which is a slightly bigger Bay Area. But I think that by working together now, the finest Bay Area and Greater Bay Area, we can do amazing things. So this is a great example, again, of bringing the 2 Bay Areas, Europe and Asia together. And I think that we complement each other really, really nicely. So I expect to see fantastic things out of that. And we're going to go to the Greater Bay Area the week of 5th of August. And expect us to have tens, maybe even like hundreds of startups and people joining that. It's a very important part of the world to visit. So if you look at Shenzhen, 80% of the world's electronics are made there nowadays, just as an example. Or then we have Guangzhou, all 2,000 people working on WeChat, which has more than 1 billion users. They're all there. So some fantastic companies that we will meet, and we will also bring some fantastic companies from the finest Bay Area to visit the greater Bay Area. So really looking forward to August already and see what we can do. But I think